They were scaling like crazy. And so they had kind of like a huge amount of success and a lot of eyeballs on them.
Yep.
And so then other companies decided, hey, we need to take China market seriously. And you saw like a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of investors from around the world. They were like, hey, we gotta explore China.
Right.
I actually joined this company called Startup Grind. So it's like the largest community for entrepreneurs in the world.
Yes.
And then long story short, man, I met Trevor Owens
Yes.
through Startup Grind.
The
I met him.
actual OG behind the whole Bitcoin ecosystem.
100%. So I met him thanks to Startup Grind. We did some stuff together. We hosted a bunch of events. But if you're building a product, you cannot do it like that, right? Like
100%.
You need to have something that it's based on reality. There were many founders that would just give up, or they would be like really pissed off because Trevor would be pushing them like, yeah, like you have this idea. Obviously, Bitcoin was my first crypto.
Fantastic.
Like 100%. I got some Ethereum. And obviously, when you look at the prices of these coins today, it was a very good entry point. I got exposed to crypto really heavily because of China, just because in 2017, China was very active. And man, they wouldn't even tell me anything about the product and they were already offering me a job.
But first off, let me congratulate you, man. Bitcoin all-time high, baby.
Well, early on, 2021, that really kind of got me excited.
Yeah.
And then I was like, maybe I should stay
Look
in
into
crypto.
this more, yeah.
Yeah, maybe I should stay in crypto and actually do more stuff here.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Base Show. I'm Saib, and here I am with another Web3 builder. Obviously, this is the week of where we get to access the best builders, investors, degens that are doing something interesting in this space. And today, I have Jan from Xverse. So, Jan, welcome to the Base Show.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This is awesome, man. I'm so impressed. You know, like when they told me you have a studio, I was like, oh yeah, that's maybe gonna be a little bit something small here and there. And like you guys have a real thing here, you know? So I'm super excited to be here and finally meet you in person, man.
We take our job seriously.
I love it.
I know, as Bangkok sounds like one of those cities where you find like, small hidden gems. I would probably call Bay Studio as one of those gems.
It's true. No, it's awesome. Like, congrats, guys. Like, this is really good stuff.
Thank you. Jan, actually, you know what? We're meeting for the first time, right? And this is the beauty of Web3, actually, right? We talk online. Everyone has, Twitter DMs, Telegram chats.
PFPs. I'm confused all the time.
Yeah, but when you actually like put a face to the name, it's a whole different vibe. Right?
100%.
It's a whole different vibe. But first off, let me congratulate you, man. Bitcoin all-time high, baby.
Let's
crushing
go.
it.
Well, congrats to you as well, man. We're in this together. I mean, this is not just about me or about us in the Bitcoin space, but, the entire crypto space is like ecstatic right now.
But for you guys specifically, because you guys are like Bitcoin maxis for me, right? Like, I mean, the entire
Well,
Xverse.
depends what you or how you define Bitcoin maxi, right? Because Bitcoin maxis, the traditional way of looking at Bitcoin maxis is actually not that positive because they're really against innovation.
Right.
They just kind of like, hey, buy your Bitcoin, hodl, never do anything with it. And again, there is nothing wrong with it.
Yep.
I'm totally okay with that approach. But unfortunately, many of the Bitcoin maxis are actually hostile towards other people that are trying to do something with Bitcoin. And again, I guess I kind of partially get it because there is a lot of scams and there is a lot of stuff that doesn't make any sense in crypto, right? We deal with that stuff every single day. We see people rugging people, etc. But, at the end of the day, we need innovation and we need innovation in Bitcoin. So I wouldn't call myself a Bitcoin maxi. I'm a Bitcoin innovation maxi.
Awesome.
And I just love to see when people are trying to build some cool stuff on Bitcoin.
Well, I would say if at all you guys have built something that could eventually lead to Bitcoin maxis, right? Because you are onboarding people into the Bitcoin ecosystem, right?
Yeah, that's the goal.
And that is what is super interesting because, we've just had this conversation with people before this, and I believe that wallets are actually one of the most significant tools to actually onboard people in crypto, right? We talk about mass adoption, but questions like how? How do I even interact with this ecosystem? And obviously for like something like Bitcoin, the whole runes, stacks, I'm going to let you get into it, right? Because you're the expert here. But like my first wallet was Xverse as well, by the way.
Let's go.
Right? My first wallet was Xverse. So Jan, walk me back a little bit more, to your history. Like what brought you into Web3? Right, and then I'll get into want to know where more like how, why, and why, and how did Xverse come along? Why Bitcoin?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, before I get to that, I just want to say, you just touched on a very important point, which is about wallets, right? Like I would even claim that wallet is the single most important touch point, right? Because
Agreed.
it doesn't really matter. Even if you open a Coinbase account, maybe you don't have your keys because it's a custodial, but it's kind of, you need a wallet. Like it's a representation of like you holding some Bitcoin. It sits in some wallet, etc. And so like wallet is the single most important user experience, or the way kind of like you interact with this crazy technology called blockchain, right? Because it can be pretty confusing to most of the people. And it was to me as well at the very beginning, right? So yeah, like I think we can get into those details, but like, yeah, like let's start with myself. So I'm from Czech Republic. I moved to Asia about 10 years ago. So I've spent a decade in Asia. I started in China. I studied at Peking University. I also had a small business back then when I was still a student. I started a small e-commerce company.
Right.
So that was actually the reason why I decided to move to China in the first place, because I was dealing with a lot of manufacturers.
10 years ago, I mean, that was prime time, man.
Well, yeah, that was like, actually, you're absolutely right. That was, and maybe, you know,
a little before prime time, actually.
Yeah, like I started this business actually from Czech Republic. So when we started this e-commerce business, I think it was like 2012, I would say. And at the time, you definitely know this brand. We were the first kind of small mini company that brought Xiaomi to Czech Republic, Slovakia,
for sure.
and a couple other European countries, but mostly Czech Republic, Slovakia. And we're basically like we're amazed by like what China was doing. Like Czech Republic was actually a good place to do that kind of business, because in Czech Republic, everybody was looking for a good deal.
Right.
Meaning that like, hey, iPhone is amazing, but it's very expensive. And at the time, the mobile operators in Czech Republic, they wouldn't subsidize it. Like there wouldn't be this kind of deal that you can say, hey, I sign up for 2 years of a plan and I get a free iPhone.
Right.
That didn't exist at the time. And so people were actually looking for like a good phone that is not that expensive, and that can kind of like be the entry point maybe into smartphones for many people. And Xiaomi was actually that, because Xiaomi was like a decent phone. I wouldn't say it was like iPhone level, but like it was a decent phone for basically half price of everything else that was on the market at the time. And so we saw that opportunity. We decided to start a business. So that's kind of like how I got going. We ran that business for 3 years. After that, I actually sold my share to my co-founder. I kind of had a small exit because I was like, hey, I love this. I think this is cool. But we tried to actually approach Xiaomi directly to become some sort of official distributor or something, but they never cared about us. They were like, hey, this is too small and like whatever. We don't care about this Czech Republic market. And so I was like, kind of like, I don't see a potential in this. Yep. So I decided to sell my share to my co-founder that time. The business is still running even today.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's still there. So we left some sort of legacy, or I left some sort of legacy there. But that's kind of how I started in entrepreneurship. So I started this first business. We never raised money for it. It was a bootstrap business. We actually made money from day one. Kind of like bought some stuff, sold it right away, bought more, sold it again, bought more, you know, like kind of like bootstrapping and hustling. And so that's what I did. That's why I went to China, because I was like, I need to be closer to the suppliers. I want to learn something about the country. And to your point, man, 2013, 2014, that was the golden era of innovation of tech in China. Yep. Because I remember I moved to China. Uber just entered the market.
That's right.
At the time. And they were actually freaking crushing it at that time, at the beginning. They were crushing the local competition. They were scaling like crazy. And so they had kind of like a huge amount of success and a lot of eyeballs on them. Yep. And so then other companies decided, hey, we need to take China market seriously. Yep. So even Airbnb entered afterwards. They were also having some sort of success. And you saw like a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of investors from around the world. They were like, hey, we got to explore China. Right. You know? And so that's kind of what was happening. After I sold the share in this company, I actually joined this company called Startup Grind. Okay. I don't know if you know them. They used to have a big presence in Bangkok as well.
Say that again.
Startup Grind. So it's like the largest community for entrepreneurs in the world.
Yes, I do remember that. I do. It was during my early days back when I was building Xverse as well, actually.
Yeah. So the company started in Silicon Valley. I do believe it was maybe in 2010 or something like that.
They did a lot of local community events, hackathons, and all this kind of stuff.
So it started in Silicon Valley, and then it kind of like organically spread across the world because people were really excited about this idea that I'm going to host local events with entrepreneurs, with investors. I'm going to build this community, and then I can connect it back to Silicon Valley and learn from one another. And so that organically spread, and I joined this company first kind of as a volunteer in Shenzhen, actually, in China, in Shenzhen. And I was hosting events as well, and I was connecting people and made a lot of great friends as well, because I didn't know anybody when I moved to China. I was just like, I didn't speak any Chinese. I didn't know anyone. I was just kind of like, hey, I want to figure this shit out. And so I joined that company first as a volunteer to host some events, and then they actually gave me an offer. Hey, like, why don't you join us full time? You're doing such an amazing job. You can actually help us spearhead the growth of the entire ecosystem and community and company in Asia.
In Asia, okay. So it wasn't just China anymore.
It wasn't just China. China was like the most exciting market at that time because everybody was interested in China.
Correct.
Everybody wanted to go explore. But man, I spent some time in India. I traveled many cities in India. I went to New Delhi, Pune, Mumbai, Kharagpur. I went to many different places because we had local communities.
You've actually been to more of India than I have, man.
No, man, I love India. I have so many friends in India. And so I did that, but obviously it wasn't just China, India. It was like Vietnam. It was Korea, Japan, Singapore, even like, under APEC, we had Australia, right? And so I was really there to kind of connect the dots, to find the cool, hungry, local ecosystem builders in all of these places and basically give them the platform, the Startup Grind platform, and like, let's do something cool with it. And so that's something that I did after that for a couple of years. And man, like through that experience, man, like I just remember, man, maybe back to the point that China was really, really hot for entrepreneurship at the time, for global companies exploring the market, man. Thanks to Startup Grind and thanks to that opportunity, I managed to work with like people like Gary Vee. We did an event, event when he visited Hong Kong. We did an awesome like a charity event with Gary Vee. I did a bunch of tours with Peter Diamandis. I don't know if you know that guy, but he's like a friend of Elon Musk. He's doing this abundance group. He wrote multiple books, and he has like so many different things like X Prize, whatever. Like he's doing so many cool things when it comes to innovation, and he's really pushing this thing that technology is going to lead to abundance. And so I did a bunch of stuff with him and his team, and so many cool people, like early employees of Uber, they all visited, and we hosted them at these events. And so I was really fortunate to be there at the right time and kind of doing this stuff that like we're building ecosystem, basically what you guys are doing here.
Awesome.
Right? So yeah, that's kind of my story. And then long story short, man, I met Trevor Owens through Startup Grind.
The actual OG behind the whole Bitcoin ecosystem.
100%. So I met him thanks to Startup Grind. We did some stuff together. We hosted a bunch of events. I was kind of like pushing him to travel around China with me, and he was speaking at all of these.
What year was this?
Man, I met Trevor. I do believe I met him probably in 2015, 2016 when he came to Shanghai.
Okay.
And I met him at a TechCrunch event in Shanghai.
Right.
So we kind of started talking. We really hit it off from the very beginning. And then like we're just doing this stuff for many years. A lot of these like startup related events. Like he was doing accelerators. He was coaching people, corporations in Asia.
He's good at it, man. He's really good at it.
And so he was doing that, and I was helping him, and we're kind of like doing stuff together. And then he kind of, I don't remember what year it was, but probably maybe 2018, 2019, he basically decided to go into Web3. Or maybe a little bit later than that. The time flies so freaking fast that I don't even know exactly the year, but he decided to go into Web3, and that was really the moment I was like even people like Trevor that used to be very skeptical of Web3, like before he joined Stacks Ventures and started to go really even into NFTs and build his first companies in that space, he was always very outspoken about how crypto doesn't make much sense.
Really?
Yeah, he was.
Okay, I didn't know this part about Trevor for sure.
No, it is true. Like, I mean, we're discussing this all the time because he was like, yeah, there is like, many of these teams, like there is no real fundamentals behind these products, and like they don't even
pretty much what most of the people think about crypto today.
Yeah, because
for
you need
people
to understand,
who don't understand it.
Yeah, like that's one thing, but you also need to understand one thing about Trevor. Like, he used to be the lean startup guy, and
Correct.
he still is, but like he was in the Web2 world, he was doing all this coaching and all these, he was building a community, he was running this workshop chain called Lean Startup Machine, where he would basically he would get bunch of founders together in a room. And for a couple days, maybe couple weeks, whatever, they would basically be working on like the fundamentals of their business and pushing them to build an MVP, to get actual customers, and to really kind of like figure out like how to go to market based on a lot of fundamentals and interviews with founders, etc. And it's true that like many crypto companies were not really based on that. It was just about let's launch a coin.
Yeah, they failed to do that. There's no product market fit at all.
Yeah, like because it was maybe the 2017, right? Like the first ICO bull market. And it was really about just like, let's launch a coin because like,
get a white paper, put some fancy keywords in there. And just put it out there, basically.
Exactly. So it was not based on fundamentals. It was really based on just some promises, usually empty promises. Many companies in China, they would just try to even hire like a global talent, even like, you're a white guy, let's have you as a CMO, And so that was really the world that I guess we were exposed to. And so it didn't make any sense to me. And it didn't make any sense to Trevor either. Like, obviously makes sense. And so we're kind of like, he was skeptical. Obviously, he worked with some companies like Blockstack, very early on. He was advising the founders, etc. But like overall, the crypto space, we saw a lot of BS, right? And so we're kind of skeptical. He was very skeptical, and he was always somebody that I looked up to when it comes to actually building startups, understanding how to go to market. And so I was very skeptical too, naturally. I was like, no, I'm not gonna do this, guys. Like, I don't care about your coin, you can pay me. They would be offering, like, I would even have teams that were coming to me.
So so by the way, just before I get to the next question, the reason I smile and nod my head is because I've gone through the entire process and everything you mentioned with Trevor, because when he was running Stack Venture, I actually had my startup, my Web2 startup that we were exploring Web3. I was running this gig economy platform, and essentially I wanted to decentralize the entire infrastructure of how these service providers could be paid. So I actually joined Stack Venture back then, and we went through the entire process. And Trevor is good at it, man. So he's
one of the best in the space. And to be very frank with you, I have to tell you, many founders don't even like it. Because he's really pushing people to you have an idea.
The thing is, it brings back reality of how to build a business and the fundamentals into the Web3 practice, which what you just said just now is very true. If I have a community, I think I can build a cult. I'm vocal on Twitter. I can just launch a coin. Right? That's how people think today, right? And we'll figure it out, because majority of people today aren't even having a product to back themselves before they go out there and raise a couple of millions of dollars, right? And it's just because you have a voice in Twitter, or you have a couple of KOL friends, or you have, whatever that influence in a cabal, you can go out there and launch a token. Right, so that's unfortunately,
and that may be good for a meme coin, right? That may be okay to some extent. I don't like it for everything, because I know there's a lot of like intentional, actually just trying to rack people of money, which is not great. But again, for a meme coin, maybe it does make sense. You just need to be able to actually get attention. If you're able to get a lot of attention, then you can be successful at it. But if you're building a product, you cannot do it like that, right? Like
100%.
You need to have something that it's based on reality. And like many founders, I remember when Trevor was running these workshops and I would be helping him with some of them, there were many founders that would just give up, or they would be like really pissed off because Trevor would be pushing them you have this idea, but do people actually care? Like, you have to go out there. You literally have to get out of the building, interview people on the street, talk to people about, does this make sense? Would you buy this product? If not, what would have to change for you to buy the product? And many people were kind of no, I don't want to go out there and do this, right? So people would actually not, to some extent appreciate that, but I really think that that's the beauty of it. If you can actually push yourself to do these things and find the fundamentals and find the first adopters that actually love the product for what it is, then he can say, hey, I have MVP and let's scale from here, but maybe I'm gonna have to pivot again very soon, you know?
Like how Brian Chesky from Airbnb said, right?
Yeah.
You really just need to find 100 people that love your product, right?
Yeah.
And then you scale from there.
And man, like one more point to this, I think it's very important, and it's so important to bring it home, is that many of these extremely successful companies today, they didn't start it in a form. They didn't start in a form that we know them for today.
100%. You
like
will
they
definitely
started as like something completely different.
And
they pivoted 3 times, and then they became super successful.
I would be surprised if any company today is pretty much what they are today from the day they started. 100%. Because you need data to speak to you, and your first idea is always never your last idea.
Yeah,
right?
you need to be
evolving.
comfortable with change and comfortable with like, okay, like we think this could work, but we have gotten some feedback from the market, and maybe we have to adjust to it.
So Jan, tell me, the fact that you're building in the Bitcoin ecosystem, or like, wallets for Bitcoiners, I guess my question's like, was it Trevor and the entire ecosystem and the access to Bitcoin the reason that got you into Bitcoin and then just dive deeper within the ecosystem? So tell me reasons of why you built around Bitcoin. Like, first up, was that your first crypto?
Obviously, Bitcoin was my first crypto.
Fantastic.
Like 100%. I don't remember exactly the day or date when I bought it, but I know it was on Coinbase. I do believe it was somewhere around 2017, 2018. I didn't, unfortunately, buy a lot of it because I was just like, I didn't know anything about what it is. And it was just kind of like thing that people talked about. And so I got a little bit of that. I got some Ethereum. And obviously, when you look at the prices of these coins today, it was a very good entry point. Yep. Unfortunately, again, didn't buy too much of it. But it was my first crypto. That's one thing. I think to answer your question in a kind of, I would say, more comprehensive way, is there's many different reasons, right? So Trevor was definitely one of the people because of whom I actually started to pay attention to Web3, because I dismissed crypto in 2017 just because I saw a lot of these ICO people coming to me and saying, hey, we're going to give you this amount of money. The only thing you have to do, you just travel around the world and speak at conferences, you promote our coin, and let's be happy together. And I was like, guys, like, this doesn't make any sense.
Especially because you had a lot of connections from China as well.
Yeah, exactly. I got exposed to crypto really heavily because of China, just because in 2017, China was very active. And man, they wouldn't even tell me anything about the product, and they were already offering me a job. And I'm like, are you serious? Like, this is not how you do it, right? So it was something that I just couldn't really say yes to because it just didn't sit well with me. Obviously, looking back, I probably made a mistake, because if I joined even one of these companies, whatever, even if it didn't work out, I would probably be sitting on a lot more crypto today, just because I would start earlier. But I don't regret, because at that time it wasn't the right time for me. It was something that I just didn't believe in at that time, and so I dismissed it. But then when I saw Trevor going into Web3 with Stacks Ventures, and obviously that has a direct connectivity to Bitcoin, then I was like, hey, this is interesting. The people in my circles that I consider very good builders, very good entrepreneurs, and very smart people in general are now kind of pivoting into crypto. And I was like, okay.
There's got to be something in there.
Exactly. That's probably the signal that like there must be something in there.
Yep.
And so I started paying attention. I really didn't do much at first, but I started paying attention. And then I remember there was another person or another company in my world where they were actually, I've known them for many years because we were doing some stuff in Web 2 together. We're both in like Hong Kong, China. We're doing like a lot of like the Web 2 high growth companies, even like investing in stuff. And they also started to like looking at crypto investment wise, or even like building some sort of companies themselves. And I actually joined them kind of as an intern because I wanted to learn, and so I joined them as an intern. I wasn't really a co-founder. I wasn't a co-founder of any of those things, but I was there from day one. And I actually helped that group of people that actually started as like a family office investment. into kind of like building couple interesting projects.
Right.
And so I was there with them from day one. I basically saw what it takes to actually like launch a crypto related company startup from day one, basically.
Any that are still around today?
Yeah, many of them.
Okay.
One of the companies that is actually quite successful today, and I was there from very early on under that family office, was now it's called Jumbo. I don't know if you ever heard about it, but they have this phone.
Jumbo phone, yeah.
Yeah, Jumbo phone.
Okay.
It's for emerging markets.
I actually have 6 lying down in my phone.
Let's go. So yeah, Jumbo is one of those companies where I was there at the very beginning, and I was working with the founders. I was like learning about crypto and like helping them to
so it's
get things off the
actually been
ground.
that long, huh? Of when they've been developing.
Yeah, it has been like 3 years, maybe 4 years. Like I think it started like late 2021, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So that was kind of like the first real opportunity where I was actually working on something crypto related.
Got it.
And so that's kind of like how I got closer to crypto. Obviously, it wasn't Bitcoin.
Yep.
It has nothing to do with Bitcoin at this point. I mean, I'm pushing them all the time, like, hey guys, let's do something Bitcoin stuff.
Yep.
But it wasn't really Bitcoin related at the time. And but anyways, like that's kind of like how I got closer. And then even like around that time, I was like talking with Trevor because he was working on some startup idea, this Ninja Alerts thing, right? Like he was actually doing like NFTs on Ethereum. And so actually around the same time, I think it was 2021, Trevor was the guy who actually helped me set up my MetaMask and buy my first NFT on Ethereum.
Okay. What was your first NFT?
The first NFT was this Metaverse HQ pass.
Yes, I remember that.
That was the first NFT that I ever bought.
Yep.
And I actually made money on it because I ended up selling it later on. Not flipping it, but like later on I sold it. And I bought it back afterwards. But like it was actually the first NFT that I got, and I made money on it.
Yep.
And it got me hooked. Because like Trevor helped me like set it. I was like, okay, I need to transfer money and I need to do this Ethereum thing and I need to buy it. And so there's like a couple of these things that I was involved in early on, 2021, that really kind of got me excited.
Yep.
And then I was like, maybe I should like stay in crypto.
Look into this more,
Yeah, maybe I should stay in crypto and actually do more stuff here. And then, having a couple conversations with Trevor, and Trevor was like, we invested in this company called Xverse, and you should talk to the founder because they probably need your skill set, because the founder is awesome, but he's more like engineer, and so I was like, sounds great. And so, I started looking into it more. I started using the product, and again, like just Bitcoin makes sense to me. I'm this like fundamentally driven person. And I like to build stuff that is needed, that everybody in crypto needs to use, not because there is a token, but just because you need it.
Yep.
Because it's this like fundamental piece of tech.
It's one of the important elements and infrastructure of what needs to be done, basically.
Yeah, and I also like these industries or these opportunities where it's kind of like you're early because people don't believe in it. Because when we started... When I obviously talked to Xverse and then I actually started working with the founder a little bit, like first part-time before I joined full-time. It was actually pre-Ordinals even. But I like that opportunity because Bitcoin Web3 makes sense because there is Web3 on every other chain and there's so many other chains and DeFi and this and that. And it doesn't exist on Bitcoin for some reason, but Bitcoin is like number one. Yeah, like Bitcoin is the number one. Bitcoin dominance is like right now, I don't know, around 60%. Everybody knows it. Everybody probably holds it. Everybody has a little bit of Bitcoin and probably would want to have more Bitcoin.
Yep.
But we don't really have this economy on Bitcoin. And so I was like, this makes sense. So why it doesn't exist? Why doesn't it exist? And so I was kind of asking that question. And then I was like, it kind of doesn't make sense that it doesn't exist. It should exist.
Yep.
And so I was like, this opportunity makes sense. We need to push it. We need to obviously advocate for it. We need to build the product, but also we need to educate people about it. And so I decided to join Xverse because I was like, Bitcoin makes sense. It's going to continue to grow, and it's an underappreciated kind of under the radar opportunity, which is something that I in general like. Like I came to China I went to China in 2010 when nobody wanted to go to China, like from my circles. So I was kind of like this outlier. So like I like these kinds of opportunities where like maybe you're the first one or you're in the first wave, and you know you build something from it. So that's why Bitcoin made sense and Xverse made sense.
No, that's definitely very interesting, right? I guess, you know, in short, simple words, like if we can just, you know, what is Xverse, right? And perhaps like what are the new technological innovations that you guys have been doing beyond just being a wallet?
Yeah, man, it's a great question. So, you know, Xverse, as you said, Xverse is the Bitcoin ecosystem wallet. That's what I like to say, because Bitcoin, there's so many things in Bitcoin happening today, right? It started 2 years ago with Ordinals, with this, obviously there was Stacks before as like one of the very few original L2s or side chains or whatever you look, whatever you consider it as. Obviously people have different perspectives, but you know, we support Stacks as the L2. You know, we do support Bitcoin, obviously. Bitcoin, the underlying L1 asset, and all of these things like Bitcoin Ordinals and runes, and you know, you have so many other meta protocols on Bitcoin happening today. You have so many of these L2s, you know, that are popping up every single day. And so again, I like to say we're a Bitcoin ecosystem wallet. We want to basically become, let's say, the MetaMask of Bitcoin, meaning that it's the only thing you need. It's the only wallet you need to
just dabble
interact.
around the entire ecosystem.
100%, to interact with all the applications, all the cool applications, all these different L2s, all this economy, this Bitcoin economy that is growing rapidly. And so that's the positioning. But yeah, it's like Xverse is really slowly, step by step, becoming more than just a wallet.
Share some stats with us. Like, what are some of these numbers that you guys have been crushing in terms of users or, you know, volume that people have transacted and stuff?
Yeah, man, in terms of downloads, we're well above 1 million downloads today. We're on all the platforms, Chrome extension, iOS, Android. And, you know, we have a lot of monthly active users. Obviously the number changes. You know, I think right now we're actually seeing it growing again pretty rapidly. At some point, you know, we were at around 500,000, more than 500,000 weekly active users, people that actually open the app and do something with it, either submit a transaction, check their portfolio, whatever it is. Right now we're actually seeing it growing again because people are like, you know, the bull market is starting to come back.
People basically want to check, how are my bags doing?
100%. Yeah, that's what you do. Obviously, it's Bitcoin, but then you have all these other tokens.
How all my ordinals and runes doing?
And so we're definitely seeing that trend to pick up again, because we were in this period where people were saying everything is dead. You know, runes and ordinals are dead. This shit is never going to work out. But now it's coming back again. So, you know, it's in terms of users, we're definitely the leading player in the Bitcoin Web3 space because we only focus on Bitcoin stuff. And again, that means even the Bitcoin L2s and all these different things that are pretty cool and that are bringing a lot of users to Bitcoin. So we do focus on that. And ultimately, like our goal, our ultimate goal with Xverse is really, like let's bring all the people that are in crypto today back to Bitcoin.
To the Bitcoin ecosystem.
And onboard more people to Bitcoin. Because yes, certain people only care about hodling their Bitcoin. That's it. But there's going to be a lot of different people. Some people want to trade meme coins. Some people want to collect NFTs. Some people will want to borrow against their Bitcoin. Lend, borrow. Some people will want to do some Bitcoin staking side of things. Some people will want to do some crazy DeFi, whatever, like complicated. Even like on some of these L2s, people will want to do some gaming stuff. I don't know. So everybody cares about different things. And that's why we want to kind of cover it all and provide really the best user experience, simplifying the user experience to make sure that, you know, it's not confusing. Again, we're not there yet. You know, we have so many improvements to make. We're working.
Well, you guys are definitely crushing it, man. I mean, for me, I remember the first time I bought one of my first ordinals was.
What did you get? What was the first ordinal, man?
Actually,
Tell me.
I think it was Trevor's Ninja.
Let's go, man. Ninjas are great.
Yeah,
They're clean as man.
And
I love
I was
those
like,
guys.
I just asked the guys, I was like, what wallet do I get myself on, man? Because like obviously it's on MetaMask, and I'm not gonna say to your surprise. I mean, you guys definitely crushing, but pretty much 9 out of 10 people said, just get Xverse. Right?
Yeah,
so it was like the go-to default wallet, right? So that's where all my ordinals and runes are right now.
Let's go. And I hope, it's either on a separate device or it's in Ledger, like make sure that...
No, it's still on my PC
well,
right now, on my laptop.
You gotta make sure that you take care of those ordinals because, the market is getting crazy, which means there's going to be a lot of people trying to get after
100%.
you,
That's actually my worst nightmare.
Man, me too. I mean, it's always like you never know what you're going to click on, right?
Yeah.
Like, we hear it in this space all the time. So you need to really take care of those assets.
100%.
But yeah, man, there's a long way to go.
Yep.
I just want to finish the point. There's a long way to go in terms of getting that the experience is so simple that everybody gets it from day one. But that's what we're working towards. We're working with a lot of different partners and companies to simplify that experience, to abstract some of the complexities, potentially even let's get rid of seed phrases at some point when it actually, becomes viable and the tech is at that level that everybody's going to accept it, then we should have an option that you can just open your wallet and maybe you're not going to store $1 million on that wallet, but if you just want to do something, if you want to do a trade, if you want to do that, you should have that option that it's going to be literally 2 clicks, right? It shouldn't be something that is going to take you 5 minutes and a lot of anxiety that, what if I lose this, right?
Correct. I guess that's obviously when you talk about a new onboard into someone that maybe hasn't even used wallets before, right? I mean, you talk about seed phrases, obviously that's number one, but number two is all these kind of different storage of things that you can do, interactions, what is gas, what's not gas, it's very confusing, right? So
super confusing.
But yeah, tell me what do you guys feel that you've done right that actually sets you apart from the rest of the wallets there? Right, something that you guys have always kept it as the ethos to making sure that we're not going to compromise on a particular thing.
Yeah.
And this is what we just feel like we're going to keep doubling down. That keeps you, a mark above everyone else.
Yeah, I think what we have done well, I think we have always focused on simplicity and user experience. From day one, basically. I mean, we were mobile first, so we actually started on mobile, iOS, Android.
I remember that.
And then extension later. And, extension obviously is very, very used. And I would say even we have now more users on the extension than actually on the mobile apps because the mobile meta, I think, is kind of just beginning right now. Kind of a lot of people talk about mobile first and let's build mobile great experience. But that was something that really, we were, for the longest time, we're the only wallet in this broader Bitcoin ecosystem that supports all of these up and coming things that is also on mobile. There was really no competition in that area. And even today, the competition is not that crazy just because people never really focused on it too much. There are some mobile wallets for Lightning, etc. But for this Bitcoin broader ecosystem, not so much. So that was something that definitely was a great decision. Another thing, we were the first ones to jump into these new trends. Things like ordinals, runes, we're always the first ones to launch the support for it, to make sure that it's easy, that it's understandable, that it's safe, right? Because the security of those assets is also very important. Yes,
100%.
I fully agree with people that tell me, it's kind of confusing that we have these 2 addresses. You have the Taproot address for ordinals, and you have this SegWit for payments. But actually, at the beginning, it was this choice because we didn't know how this ecosystem is going to evolve, how it's going to grow, and it was actually way safer to separate all of your assets on Bitcoin with the payment address where you kind of make all those trades because people would end up losing their stuff by sending it to a wrong address or by not being careful and just clicking confirm transaction and sending their ordinal as a fee, whatever. And so there was a lot of these issues that we had to deal with at the beginning. It's true that every single wallet provider has dealt with these issues in the early days of ordinals because it was experimental. Nobody knew how it's going to develop, if it's going going to last for, 3 weeks, or if it's going to be this thing that is going to become the next big thing on Bitcoin. Obviously, we had that feeling that it's going to be the next big thing, but at the beginning, like, nobody really knew what's going to happen. And so we kind of went with the flow, but, we always focused on, like, let's make sure that it's as secure as possible while keeping it relatively simple so that everybody can understand it. And so that's something that I think we have done incredibly well. And just like being at the forefront of all of these innovations is something that really made us stand out, because many of the other wallets, they just didn't do it as well as fast, and they were kind of always the follower. And we were able to just grow rapidly because of this.
Bang on, man. I think that's pretty much what you would expect from a wallet provider, right?
And from a startup, right?
Simple,
like, as a startup, you got to move fast, man.
Simple, safe, and swift. Like, you just have to be fast about things, right? So, I definitely agree. I mean, by the way, I was, I can't tell how many times I've gone to Xverse support page just to understand how I move my funds from one address to another.
Yeah, that's why, how
many times I've like got so nervous, like, I gave my other address to, someone else when I was trying to transfer funds.
100%.
I remember like transferring funds from Binance into a particular wallet just because I was going to mint something or like purchase something. And I was like, oh, okay. But again, that's something that you...
And to your point, man, I just want to say, like, 100% we have so many things to improve. The one problem why it's kind of manual and when it's kind of a little bit more complex than on other chains is because Bitcoin doesn't really have advanced smart contracts. You cannot really abstract things to that level. Like, you have to make it kind of stupid simple. You have to really work with, the limitations that you have, and you have to, just kind of adjust to it. And so again, there is decisions that you have to make as a builder on the product level. Do I go all in on just simplicity, or do I kind of make some sort of compromises along the way? But ultimately the North Star is to make it as simple as possible. But it's gonna take time. It always takes a couple phases, and like, people care about different things, and like, this and that. So, we always listen to the customer, to the user. I spent, I would say 50% of my time just like talking to people and like getting feedback. And, I'm very involved in the space, and we're going to get better. We're going to continue to get better, but it's not going to happen overnight.
It takes time, man. It takes time. Great products take time.
Bitcoin. Building on Bitcoin is hard. That's why, to this point, I want to say that's why we don't even see that many other established companies that are maybe on Ethereum or Solana. They didn't jump into it right from the start, because it's not only about the decision, do I want to support Bitcoin at the first place, but it's also, do I even know how to build on Bitcoin? And for many of these guys that are from Solana, it's actually pretty difficult to grasp.
In other words, we're very early right now.
Super early, man. Like, we have, I know it's a cliche. Everybody says in crypto, we're so early, jump in now, whatever. I mean, everybody says it every day. It doesn't matter if we're in a bull market or bear market. But to be very frank with you, if you look at Bitcoin has been around for so many years, right? Like, and it's the OG, it's the first one. But this Bitcoin innovation ecosystem, this Bitcoin Season 2 ecosystem, has only been around for around 2 years. Right? And so I think that you need this period of time to basically establish the foundation, to basically prove to people that this shit is not going to go away, that we have reached this escape velocity, that it's only going to get bigger from here. And now it's about growth. It's about the onboarding of developers and users and making these products better. And so yes, we're early.
Yeah, and tell me one thing, because, a lot of times people that have been building in the West, or, people that have not seen Asia or have not heard, definitely heard of Asia, but have not seen Asia. I love the fact that you've been in the trenches from the very early days, and you have to be. You have seen and now have appreciated the entire, ground up approach of building communities. You've seen a fair bit of Asia by now. What's your thoughts on the entire Asian ecosystem, or essentially doubling down on Asia?
Man, I love Asia. I'm an Asia bull, because I mentioned I've been here for more than a decade or close to a decade. I came in I think late 2014, so it's basically a decade now.
Right.
So I've been here for a very long time. I have been fortunate enough to be able to travel everywhere. So yes, I spent some time in China. Right now I'm based in Hong Kong. Our company is in Hong Kong as well. I traveled everywhere. I traveled to India, Vietnam, Korea.
I bet you've done more of Asia than me as well.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I'm from Europe and I didn't even travel to many European countries and places just because I left so early on. I left while I was still at university and I was always hustling, always doing things when I was in high school and I never really got a chance to travel a lot there. But I was fortunate enough to travel a lot in Asia. I love Asia. I have always loved the energy that people want to get shit done. People want to actually adopt new things because they don't have any other choice. Like in Asia, in China specifically, when I arrived there in 2014, that was actually the time when the WeChat ecosystem really started to blow up with this WeChat Pay and QR code that you can just basically set up your payment account
one app for everything.
Yeah, one app for everything. You just connect your card, whatever your bank account, and you can just pay for everything with just one scan of a QR code with one click. And that's when it started to take off. And then obviously all the other countries around, like India even, it was, what is this company? Paytm, yeah. So that was I also remember that astronomic growth of that company. It was basically the same thing, invested by Alibaba. So there was a lot of this strategic stuff. And we don't even have this stuff in Europe yet, in many countries. You cannot just pull up your Revolut and just scan a QR code and pay for parking. In many places, I still have to freaking get out of the car and pay manually for the parking before I can get out. And so, Asia has always been many steps ahead.
Do you think, would you say that statement is true for Web3 and blockchain as well? Would you say that Asia has always been in the forefront in the blockchain space?
Well, it's hard for me to say because, I joined Web3 relatively late, right? So I joined in this past cycle, this past 4 years. It's my first real cycle, the full cycle where I have seen the real bottom because I joined after Luna FTX collapsed. That's when I kind of started to full-time dabble in the space. And now I've kind of seen how we're getting back, etc. So it's very hard for me to compare the beginnings. And I'm sure that there's been a lot of innovation and stuff happening in the previous cycle. So it's really hard for me to compare one to one. But just in general, I've definitely seen people in Asia being very into crypto. From the very beginning, right? Even 2017, the ICO boom, a lot of Chinese teams building these companies, etc., trying to build this and that, and some of them really succeeded, right? Some of them actually did something really cool that's stuck around. And so, I would say it's very similar because at the end of the day, crypto and blockchain, it's technology, right? It's not so much different in terms of how you actually build something that lasts. If you really want to take it seriously, you have this tokens and you have this liquidity events that can happen much quicker and there's not so much regulation yet, and we're kind of maybe even hoping that the regulation is going to come so that we can get more people into it.
Absolutely. You bring up a great point, and that's for me what's super exciting right now, because I believe that Asia, yes, we've always been that hustlers, we've been grinding, we've got that spirit in us, but somehow we haven't just been out there trying to do things, there's a lack of dare to do. There's that lack of infrastructure, right? Infrastructure where I would say liquidity comes from, right? The big funds to kind of back a certain narrative that has been thought by an Asian founder hasn't really been out there as much as, let's say, the world, the A16Zs of the West, will pour in $100 millions for a new narrative, for instance, right? But I'm super excited now that, with the entire elections, regulators in Singapore are now, this is something I just learned from my Singaporean friends yesterday, the regulators have now 3x their team from, 3x their team just to start making sure that they can spin out these licenses quicker than before.
Wow. That's
right?
very bullish.
That's
yeah.
bullish. That's super
Yeah.
bullish, right? And I can see that, China will follow, India will follow, Thailand, everyone else, like Vietnam has been also progressing massively as well. Once we start unlocking these regulatory concerns, or let's
Totally.
say we're gonna, momentum is gonna be enormous,
Yeah.
right?
Totally. No, man, you're absolutely right about this. And maybe just one more thing on the Asia side of things. Like, yeah, man, like I think what I have seen with my experience in Asia is like many times the local founders, they're kind of struggling with building global companies.
Yes.
But, again, like, is it so much different compared to, like, let's say you're a European founder or you're a US founder and you're trying to expand into places like China, into places like India, Korea? It's also pretty tough because, like, you don't understand the market very well. Yeah, maybe people respect Silicon Valley a lot more, but still it's not that straightforward to come and, like, build an amazing localized product that everybody is going to love. And so, I think it goes both ways. And, I just love the hustle and the fact that people are so open to new ideas and new things in Asia in general.
You're right. Absolutely. Banger on that. Yeah. What are the biggest challenges you're facing right now? What are whether it's internal or external? What are those?
There is building a company, building a startup is like full of challenges every single day, right? I think one, obviously, yes, we're still in a space that is kind of underappreciated, is still something that people are yet to really open their minds to.
Right.
And so, that's the challenge, right? In terms of education,
blockchain, Web3 adoption.
Blockchain, even just like, okay, like, what is this stuff, like runes or ordinals, NFTs on Bitcoin? Doesn't even make sense. Why do I need it? I will just stick to my Sol and Ethereum NFT. So like there's this kind of thing that like you always have to educate people. You have to like just pound it every day, like why this is so different, why this is so transformational. Because yeah, it's Bitcoin, man. It's so simple, but like many people still don't get it. I think, one example I have, like, yeah, I've had so many friends that are ultimate degens. Like, man, they degen on Solana, they degen on Ethereum, they will buy any bullshit that they see. And they even have a lot of Bitcoin. And when Ordinals started to happen, they were like, no, why would I do? Like, why would I spend my Bitcoin? And now they're kind of like turning around and they're like, man, you didn't tell me before. You should have pushed me more because I would have more Bitcoin now.
Bro, you didn't share the alpha, bro. That's all they say. Why didn't you share the alpha?
Yeah, but like, it's like, it definitely takes a little bit of time. If you had this mentality in the past that you never spent your Bitcoin, you just hodl.
Yeah.
Like, why would you now actually spend it on JPEGs? Why would you spend it on runes or meme coins? Or why would you like put it to work with some DeFi stuff, right?
Yeah.
So that's one challenge for sure. And I think that's going to continue to exist, but I think we're doing better and better every single day. I mean, another challenge is like always like finding the best people, right? Like finding people that want to join the company, that want to help us grow, that are actually long-term passionate about this space. They're not just jumping from one opportunity to another, but they actually have this conviction that this Bitcoin Web3 is going to be so big, because right now we're just scratching the surface. It's $1.5 trillion of Bitcoin value.
Yep.
And the amount or the value of these coins and NFTs and DeFi on Bitcoin, it's still just a tiny percentage. Right? And so, finding people that understand this, that believe in it, like it's also extremely big challenge.
You say you're based in Hong Kong. What's the percentage of your team being Asian?
We actually have a bunch of people. I think, I'm not sure if I'm gonna say it right, but I think we have like 5-6 people that are actually in Asia right now.
Nice.
And actually most of them are based in Hong Kong. And then the rest of them are basically kind of fully distributed. So we have people in Europe and some people in the US time zones. We have some people even like, places like North Africa, etc. So
Beautiful.
we're like fully distributed. We don't really care. Like we hire the best people or people that, as I said, they're just like in tune with
passionate
like what we're trying to
yeah.
build. And so you can be based anywhere, but like, yeah, finding the best people is always a challenge. I guess... I don't know, just like keep up with everything, bro. Like there's just so much fucking going on.
100%.
I'm like, every day I wake up, I sleep 6 hours, I go to the gym, I try to stay healthy because that's the only thing that you can actually sustain without a burnout
For sure.
long term. But I'm like, man, like there's just so many things going on.
So many distractions in the space. As a builder, there's a lot of distractions in the space.
Yeah, it's a challenge. It's a huge challenge,
and that's what I respect builders that are like laser focused and keep, that stride on building good products versus maintaining that FOMO and distraction, man.
It's so hard, man. Like I mean, that's why I even told you, like when I walked in, like I don't even know what's happening on Bera chain and this chain and that chain. What is the next up and coming L1? Like what is this like NFT, super hyped NFT on Solana? Like I don't even know because there's just so much going on only in Bitcoin, and you have to stay focused. Like even though I'm fully focused on Bitcoin, there's still so many distractions of things that actually don't maybe even make sense. People are just trying to leverage the Bitcoin narrative to do something, and you have to kind of like stay in tune with the North Star that you have and just like try to zoom these things out.
So I'm not going to ask you this question of what other narratives you are bullish on, because that pretty much covered it. But tell us, just to kind of sum it up for us, right? What are the 1, 2, or maybe 3 most exciting things that we, people that are not interacted with Bitcoin, or people like myself that have passively invested into the Bitcoin ecosystem? What are things that, we should look out for?
Man, I mean, all the trends that you're seeing on Solana, Ethereum, in the other chains are happening on Bitcoin right now. Obviously, it's a different level. Some of them are just getting started, be it the meme coins or, the DeFi and, these kinds of things, even like, gaming, whatever. So like there is a variation of all of those trends, even like real world assets, right? Like all of these things are kind of coming to Bitcoin, or people are building that stuff on Bitcoin. However, yes, like, it's not even close in terms of the level of development and the amount of people. Like we still have a lot of work to do there. We need to onboard a lot more people, even though I would say there's probably 1,000 developers now building in the Bitcoin ecosystem, which is extremely bullish. So to my point, what I would want to say, like if you're just getting started, if you maybe hold some Bitcoin and you want to get more involved in the broader Bitcoin ecosystem, just take it slow, man. Just pay attention, because I think, ultimately the last thing you want is that you take all of your Bitcoin and put it into one meme coin, right? Just because somebody told you on Twitter to do that. Don't do that. That's obviously not a very responsible thing to do. But I would definitely obviously get Xverse, start kind of like playing around, start like, following some people in the Bitcoin ecosystem, because as I said, like we're just scratching the surface in terms of, what is possible. And what is going to be possible on Bitcoin with all of these L2s, even with the L1, we're always pushing the boundaries. There is this conversation right now around OpCat, around potential soft fork of Bitcoin again, because that has happened in the past, but there was kind of a period of time where people were like, no, it's never going to change again. But now we're starting that conversation again, because we have onboarded a lot more users to Bitcoin, and they're using Bitcoin every single day in a very different way than all the Bitcoin maxis, because you would be actually surprised. Many Bitcoin maxis, they don't even know much about how Bitcoin actually works. Just because they don't use it, they don't spend their sats every day on the network fee, and they're not pushing the boundaries of PSBTs and stuff like that. And so right now, with this kind of new wave of users, we're learning so much more about Bitcoin. And so this conversation around potentially adding some more opcodes, or being able to do better bridges, being able to do stuff, even improve Lightning, that has been amazing. And I think, Lightning has this narrative of making payments and scalable payments, but many of the Lightning builders, they're either giving up, or they're saying like, we have a lot of issues, like we need soft fork, we need this opcat, we need this governance to make sure that we can actually make a better version of that. And so this conversation is just so interesting. And the fact that we're so early, that stuff didn't happen yet, means that there is this crazy opportunity.
That can go exponential, right?
100%.
Like you said, I think TLDR on that, Bitcoin ecosystem is really just scratching the surface right now. And again, like if we talk about liquidity, like it's the Bitcoiners that have been holding the massive liquidity in this space anyway. It's about how we can unlock that to explore other channels and play around to kind of explore different opportunities that will start unlocking, right?
100%, man.
But with this whole Bitcoin ecosystem, there's always so much to learn. And every time I speak to someone like yourself that's so, dive deep into the ecosystem, I learn something new. But friends, Degens, for those of you that don't actually understand these jargons that he's just used, I know you run a show as well.
The Ordinal Show. Actually, Trevor is the mastermind behind it. We do it together with Trevor and Leonidas.
Yes,
They're
both experts as well.
Experts and some
Both
of the biggest
experts.
influencers in the space.
100%.
So definitely
These
follow
guys
us,
are
guys.
the pioneers of
Yeah.
like the ecosystem. So I will definitely say, guys, please go follow them. I'll put some link down below as well. If you haven't already dabbled around the Bitcoin ecosystem, get your Xverse wallet and just start playing around, man. I mean, the last thing you want to do is miss out on the next big thing. Although I will say this, like, study and be focused on your lane, but always just try to be curious of what others are doing or what other new ecosystems or what other new things are going on in the ecosystem. And for me, I think with Bitcoin, it's more like, with this whole Bitcoin ecosystem, it's like, what are the same things we've seen happened already in other ecosystems come back to the largest ecosystem in crypto, which is Bitcoin. Ladies and gentlemen, Jan, thank
Let's
you
go.
so much once again, man. It was a pleasure having you. I'm just going to say this.
Thank you so much, man.
Enjoy Bangkok.
I love Bangkok, man. I love this place. The only thing that I don't like is the traffic.
Oh, man.
Maybe it's because of the conferences, so many people.
No, bro.
But
it is a mess. The Bangkok traffic is a mess.
It's crazy,
there's
man.
There's only two ways you can get around Bangkok: motorbikes
Bro, but man,
and motorbikes.
man, I don't do motorbikes, man. I'm so afraid of this.
No, I will only look motorbikes and SkyTrain, right? That's like the only way.
SkyTrain is good. I would definitely do that.
You get into a cab, I'm telling you, you're paralyzed, right? Like, you would rather have like a Batmobile where you can actually work and network within that space. Otherwise, like, I would never travel in a car.
True.
Right? That's
True.
the only days I take my car out is the weekend, and the traffic is even worse.
Man, ever since I moved to Asia, and I love driving. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
like back in Czech Republic, like when I was 15, I was already like driving around our property, just learning how to drive. And I love cars. But ever since I moved to Asia, I gave up on the idea of even owning a car.
Right.
Because it just doesn't make sense in like a big city, even like place like Hong Kong or Shenzhen or these places. It just doesn't make any sense to own a car because you can get around in many different ways. You can actually jump into this Ubers and whatever local versions of it, and it's actually pretty convenient. And it just doesn't make sense. So,
Well, guys, as much as we talk about traffic and the downside, I'm just gonna leave it and end it here. That it's a beautiful chaos.
no, it is, man.
Right.
As I said, like there's like. It's good to have real expectations, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I say it like, the traffic is pretty bad. Like if you're coming here and you're expecting it's gonna be smooth riding,
Oh,
probably
for sure not.
like don't have those expectations. But other than that, like, man, like come here, experience it. The level of energy, people are so excited to build cool, like it's just. I love Thailand. I love this place, and there's just so many opportunities, bro.
100%.
And you know it because that's why you're here, bro.
100%, and there's a lot of people right now just exploring to move into different parts of Asia. Thailand being
100%.
number one, actually,
Wow, really?
Yes, so Bangkok, Phuket, like I think there's
Let's go.
right. I mean, it's cost efficient. Quality of life is great, right? It's convenient. I mean, convenient. Let's not bring traffic back in again. But it's overall, I'd say it's still bullish, right? Like bullish for builders to come back
honestly,
in.
like traffic is kind of annoying when you come here for a conference, right?
Yeah.
When you have like so many meetings everywhere and you need to get from A to B to C to D, then traffic is annoying. But like if you actually move here,
Yeah.
and if you actually do shit here, like you're not in the car.
You get accustomed to it as well.
Yeah,
actually.
like you get accustomed to it. You plan your
Yep.
your time based on that, and also like you sit in this beautiful studio, this beautiful office. You grind, you do stuff, and like there's so many benefits, bro.
Well, I'm not gonna keep you late from your next meeting.
But this is great, man.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you having me. This studio, man. I'm such a big fan, and I'm excited. Next time we gotta do something bigger here, man.
For sure, man. 100%. This is not the first time, and not the last time we're doing things together.
Definitely not.
So, guys, signing off from another episode of full of alphas, but full of even interesting insights from a builder perspective, right? I think Jan has really kind of unlocked and uncovered like what are the basics of even just starting and building a company, a real product that are used by millions of people, right? So, guys, please do help support the builders out there like Jan, and as always, keep dabbling around in the space and spreading the alphas to your friends as well. Jan, thank you so much once again for coming
Thank
on
you.
the Base Show. Signing out.